If you've watched my last videos, you've probably sensed a pattern in that I really enjoy point-and-click adventure games. Games such as Grim Fandango and the Monkey Island franchise are held as some of my favourite games of all time. However, while those games are more light-hearted and fun, The Cat Lady could be considered the complete opposite. It's a tale of sadness, anguish, and a lot of dead people. Although in hindsight, I've now just realised that kind of sums up Grim Fandango and Monkey Island. The Cat Lady is the first in the series by Harvester Games, which is intended to be a trilogy, continuing with Downfall and Lorelei, the latter of which will be coming out later this year. The game follows Susan Ashworth, a depressed and lonely woman who is often referred to as the Cat Lady by her neighbours, due to her loneliness and her reliance on the cats who visit her. Having had enough, Susan takes an overdose of sleeping pills to commit suicide. As the world turns dark, Susan finds herself in a beautiful landscape, yet filled with disturbing imagery and jump scares. If this is the afterlife, I've decided I don't plan on dying. Ever. Eventually she meets an entity known as the Queen of Maggots, who, with a name like that, is of course immediately trustable, and you should do whatever she tells you to do.
See those candles here? Just blow one out, and that's it. See how easy that was?
Maggie gives Susan a task: to go back and kill 5 parasites, a bunch of people who want to kill her. She just doesn't know who they could be, and for all she knows, they could appear as friends. They could be anyone. So it's her job to put an end to them old jailer style. But why Susan? Who knows? Maybe she just thought that she did such a good job of killing herself that theoretically, and this is just theoretical, it could be applied to others too. It is this task that guides Susan through the game, as she looks to stop these 5 parasites. Awakening from her suicide attempt, she is told she is lucky to be alive. However, the hospital refuses to let her leave, as they view her as a risk. In order to escape, some pretty wacky hijinks occurs, such as sneaking around and switching things about. At some point this escalates to taking a ton of sedatives to transcend to some different plane of existence and stabbing a beating heart, but I guess it's just an average day in hospital. Susan does try to escape, but before she can make it, she is stopped by Dr. Xavier, who talks to her about her past few nights to see if she's okay. And I mean, I don't see anything that's detrimental. I mean, aside from having dreams of being burnt alive by the medical equipment, or one of the nurses trying to convince her to escape by committing a packed suicide off the roof of the hospital, I mean, aside from that, I guess it's okay. Dr. Xavier reassures Susan that the nurse Susan refers to, Liz, is absolutely fine, and they'll go see her. What a swell guy. Oh, okay. He's a parasite. He murders Susan in cold blood, which takes her back to a terrifying nightmare world. After progressing through this place, she awakes in a body bag, unharmed. Having been brought back to life seemingly by the Queen of Maggots, Susan appears to no longer be able to die. And believe me, the game really tries. To be honest, that's gotta be a bummer. No longer wanting to live and yet being forced every single time back from death. Now, if you thought this game was already horrifying, then I have got some bad news for you. Susan awakes in a room full of corpses that have been murdered by the Doctor. Throughout this basement are corpses of the Doctor's victims, are arranged into famous works of art. Fortunately, Susan puts an end to this and goes home.
What's up, Doc?
New world record!
After this, she leaves and tries to live her daily life, but things keep going wrong. The more bad things that happen, the more a red gauge will appear that once filled up will cause her to have a breakdown. Likewise, a blue gauge appears and rises when Susan does something that will help reduce her stress, like having a shower. This is actually the only point in the game where this shows up. Alright, simple enough, let's take a shower and... Okay, well, the electricity went out. Okay, fine, we'll just go out and top it up, like that wasn't a problem at all. And I guess we'll make food. How about this burger? Like, that won't take more than 90 seconds, I imagine. Okay, fine, it exploded. Fine, okay, we'll just have a cup of coffee.
Oh, for God's sake. This milk's off. It's completely ruined my coffee.
Are you serious? Okay, fine, we'll just go outside and have a cigarette.
It's this damn bird again. Go away! Shoo!
Yeah, that sounds about right. With all the bad stuff that's happened, let's just play our piano and summon our cats. Perhaps the comfort of our furry feline friends will help calm Susan down a bit. What kind of big ass cat is that?
I'd like lots of money to buy lasagna with.
With all this being too much for her, Susan breaks down and begins to sob on her bed. The next day, she awakens to what I can only imagine being another cat knocking on her door.
Someone's at the door. I really hope it's not him again.
Oh, never mind. This girl is Mitzi, who happens to be the person that found Susan, by breaking in nonetheless. She states she is looking for somewhere to stay, so Susan agrees after countless begging. If the game hasn't already bummed you out at this point, then sadly it's about to get even worse, with this girl revealing that she has cancer. She came here to look for someone who persuaded her boyfriend to commit suicide. She has tracked them down to somewhere in this building, so she wants to stay with Susan. I'm not too sure how she doesn't know it's actually her, but that doesn't matter, I guess. Still, how's that for a bummer? Despite the inability to die, the game is still a frightening experience, and I don't mean simply from its share of jump scares. Perhaps the most terrifying part of the game is Chapter 4, set in the household of a pest control man and his wife, who kidnapped Susan after a call was made about her cats. I mean, I can appreciate the confusion, yeah, he said the cats, but he probably just heard the cat lady. Easy mistake. Pest control man is disturbing, with an over-earnest desire for Susan and some pretty sleazy chat that you'd probably hear in a nightclub.
Hey there. Gorgeous. Do you want me to give you a cuddle and a kiss? Well, never mind. Plenty more fish in the sea. I'm not too fussy, but even I have some standards. Ain't gonna touch a bird like you, I gotta be honest, girl. You look like shit.
His wife, however, is where I feel most of the horror stems from, dressed as a raggedy and bloody nurse who limps around. Did I also mention both characters are voiced by David Firth, the creator of web animations such as Salad Fingers. The man knows how to intimidate you through voice alone, I'll give him that. His wife doesn't take too kindly to the advances her husband is making towards Susan and has to ruin Susan's face. It's like watching an episode of Jeremy Kyle, but tamer. As mentioned though, this all gets fixed once Susan kills herself. What a great moral to this story. Now if this wasn't terrifying enough, the house itself has a horrible atmosphere. You hear creaking and footsteps which, when I originally played, nearly forced me to quit playing. But I persevered. I started exploring around this reject from the Resident Evil Mansion lineup, and eventually stumbled across Homegirl over here chopping up all sorts of meats before chopping me up into all sorts of meats. But it's okay because immortality. Now, this is admittedly scary, right? But as long as I don't venture into the little shop of horrors in the back, are we all good? Well, no. I don't know what really causes it, but you'll sometimes be walking through the kitchen and she'll appear and gut you. This is the point where I just had to quit, take a wee breath and think, why am I subjecting myself to this? This is something I think the cat lady captures quite well. The atmosphere is truly chilling. It's also not like she can leave either due to the chilling fog set around the area. How's that for typical? It looks like Susan is trapped there with a bunch of murderers, and it's not like the police are going to help much either. As it happens, Mitzi revealed the story of her boyfriend's suicide and how he made a gas to poison himself. Since these can be found around the house, Susan kills the pest control man by gassing him, which allows her access to his guns to go face off against his wife. Entering the shed though, she isn't anywhere to be seen. Where can she be? Oh, she's hiding in one of the bathtubs. Neat. While this is perhaps the most iconic part of the game to me, it still makes no sense. Why is she hiding in the bath? That just seems like a cheap attempt at a jump scare to me. And I won't lie, it worked. After the ordeal, Susan goes home to unwind. This also leaves us with 2 parasites left to kill. We're powering through them. Go us! All the parasites were deadly, having in some form murdered Susan, among likely others. However, some are not nearly as dangerous as others. For example, one parasite, which the creators dubbed the Carpenter, does kill Susan at one point, but after that, just kinda gives up and tries to kill Mitzi instead. While the idea of hanging someone like this is pretty disturbing, I'm sure this character would be a lot more tense if it wasn't for the fact he literally let Susan go to stop him. Like, hey, I just tied you up, but you know what, I've changed my mind. Eventually, he demands Susan play the piano, which summons the cats, and they proceed to eat him. That's a pretty brutal way to go, but to go from gas mask, shotgun, badass to this is a bit lackluster. I'd probably say that out of all the parasites, Carpenter here was just a bit lacking, yet at the same time disturbing. I feel him being pale in comparison to the other parasites is more of a statement of how much more terrifying they are, rather than disregarding him as a villain. He's still pretty terrifying, although not as much as the others. During this, we learn where Susan's depression manifests from: the death of her baby, who died due to an allergy to flowers. Grief-stricken, her husband turned to alcohol and is found dead a few days later in the woods, leaving Susan alone. With the 4th parasite dead, Susan decides to take a break by helping Mitzi. As mentioned before, Mitzi's story is that she's looking for an internet troll by the name of the Eye of Adam, who convinced her boyfriend to commit suicide. She's pinpointed Adam's location to a flat in Susan's building, so she enlists Susan to help. Essentially, most of the residents are not particularly suspicious.
Would you like to talk to him?
Sure. I'll pretend I'm doing one of those customer surveys. Do you have a computer?
Next time I'll do the talking, yeah?
Aside from Joe Davis and his wife Ivy. Joe and Ivy are actually characters from the previous game, Downfall, which was later remade into a sequel to The Cat Lady. After breaking into Joe's flat, Mitzi decides it's a great idea to run out and leave Susan alone, saying it'll be fine, which you know means the complete opposite in a horror.
You took her away, didn't you? What has she ever done to you?
Joe is pretty much the definition of disturbed, and begins to menacingly approach Susan, threatening to shoot her. Startled, Susan keeps backing up until she falls through a hole into the flat below Joe's. Waking up, Susan finds herself in a broken room in Quiet Haven Hotel, the setting of both Downfall games. There she meets a rather polite version of Joe, who doesn't seem intent on brutally murdering her, which makes a refreshing change for once. Maybe he's not as crazy as I made him out to be. Friendly enough, Joe asks Susan to convince his wife Ivy to come out because he'd been in there for a week. Okay, never mind, I'm getting bad vibes from him again. We go in and... oh, jeez. Of all the things that are not okay in life, this might take the top. Maybe I'll just move these mirrors around and... oh, that made things worse. Eventually I guess we faced the mirrors correctly. Oh god, no. Joe comes in, only to start freaking out and rationally stating that that's not his wife and he wants Susan to kill it. Of course, being the lawful good cat lady that we are, we refuse. So instead, Joe shoots her. Should have seen that one coming. After all this, Susan wakes up again in Joe's house, supposedly none of the prior interactions having occurred, and Mitzi returning to let her know she was only gone for a minute. Supposedly, it was all a dream. If you exclude the fact that you kept all your items from there, but who's keeping track at this point? Dejected, the duo return home, only to find a signed letter from him. It turns out that Adam is actually living in the house of an old man, whom the duo wrote off due to his seemingly senile ways. It does refer to the old Chinese proverb, "Don't trust old people." They up to no good. They head over to confront Adam, but not before his father warns them that he plans to murder the two by gassing them. He tries to warn them, and offers them the gas mask, stating his son would never poison him.
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong.
At this point, the players provided the option of allowing Susan to die by giving Mitzi the gas mask, or to keep the gas mask to herself. This leads into different endings the player can receive. Of course, since Susan is, immortal, this should be a no-brainer. But hey, why the heck not? Again, being the lawful good cat lady, I decided to give Mitzi the gas mask, and Susan dies. She meets once more with Queen Maggie herself, who says she has to blow out a candle. However, Susan realises that the Queen of Maggots is actually the manifestation of her depression, and while you can blow it out, in my game I refused, and told her to beat it. And with that, she's back. Both of them barge into Adam's room, who it turns out is a paralysed man who can only communicate through eye movement. Mitzi begins to freak out and takes out a gun, threatening to shoot the man who convinced her boyfriend to kill himself. Susan again can either let her do so, or convince her not to. Susan does notice that a bullet would probably cause the room to explode, so we're like, hey, Mitzi, gonna chill for a second? And again, this can affect the ending, determining whether Mitzi blows up the room and kills both herself and Adam. Since this seems a little extreme, Susan decides to convince her to let Adam rot away, stating he clearly wants to die, and this way, he cannot do anything.
Come on, mate. It's been a long day. Let's go home. We've won.
Have we really?
Trust me. I know we have.
How?
I'm the cat lady. From now on, I win every single day.
The game ends with Susan writing a blog to others with depression, having taken it up after Mitzi passes away, who in this ending has succumbed to her cancer. Susan acknowledges that her depression may never leave, but her time with Mitzi taught her that she needs to keep going. There is also a golden ending where Mitzi actually lives and survives cancer, but you have to play the game perfectly to the point that it just doesn't feel realistic. With this, I feel this is a true, fitting end to this game.
Now, I've forgiven the world and myself too. I teach myself to smile again. One day I'll get there. I know I will. Even if it takes me not 9, but 900 lives.
Hey, how about that? A happy ending. I like fairy tales.